How's it going, everybody? It is the Crypto Oracle here, and today it's kind of a casual video just explaining the basic TA and support lines and pretty much why Bitcoin is the price that it is right now. What are the limits of where Bitcoin can go overall? Just because a lot of people don't really understand the moving forces, or at least the pieces behind why the Bitcoin price changes when it does, why it can't go below certain levels, because I guess people just kind of taking information from people on YouTube, people on Twitter, people on forums and such, and they don't really understand the reasons why it happens. They just say, oh, this guy said it can't go below $2,900, so it can't do it. But it really is some pretty important information to know why Bitcoin changes the way it does, just so in the future you can make your own analysis without just kind of listening to other people. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. First, I'm going to explain this very bottom support line, and that goes all the way back to the beginning of this year when Bitcoin was about $1,000. We can start right about there, because I mean the other support line, there's a support line right here, but it's so baseline and it's so old. And since Bitcoin is such a growing market, I don't think we would ever see a return to that line, just because that's not really a growth line at this point. That's really just the baseline from the beginning of the year. So it doesn't really reflect what's going to happen this year or next year. So we can delete that line. Well, first of all, I'm actually using TradingView. A lot of people have been asking what software I use. You go to tradingview.com, and I believe there's a free version, but this is the paid premium version. I think the free version you can only use up to 3 indicators, which is fine as long as you only use 3 indicators, but you're gonna have to if you want to use any more, you have to delete one of them. So I mean, I just pay for it. It's like $30 or $50 a month, and you can use as many indicators as you want. So just to clear it up before we get into it too detailed. So we're looking at it at the actual graph on the 1-day scale right now, which is pretty far out. That's because we need to understand this base support line right here. And the base support line, it started when Bitcoin started moving in a bullish formation back in March. The end of March is whenever we saw that lowest point. And then we saw it move steadily up for a while, and then the next, or the reversal, which turned it to bearish, happened around mid-June, I'd say. I think everybody kind of remember that point when Bitcoin and alts were just going crazy, batshit crazy down, and then we saw that bounce off of 1,800, and obviously everybody was scared that Bitcoin was going to go lower. Bitcoin was going to go back to under $1,000, but it didn't. It just bounced off of 1,800, and that created a reference point for the lowest support line. So that's why we have the support line right here. It bounced off of this line of support, and that's why we see kind of the not really the invisible hand. That's really looking at it from more of an economic standpoint than the actual TA. It's just the support that you don't see. It's kind of hard to see it because it's based off the buyers and the sellers, but the support is all on this line. And now it's not. I'm not saying that doesn't mean it can't go below it, because what it means is if Bitcoin crashes, or not crashes, if it corrects, it shouldn't go below the support line. So if we look at it and it slowly goes down a little bit for the next month or two, then the lowest it could go, I would say, is $2,700, right? The absolute lowest. But if it goes lower and it goes to $2,600, that doesn't mean it's the end of the world, because it's a rough support line. It's not saying at this exact slope it can't go any lower, because all you're looking at is the slope, and it can't be perfect. So yeah, it could go, if it goes to 2,600, that doesn't mean it's a crash. However, if it went to lower than 2,600, if it went to 2,200, that would be a proper crash, I would say. That would not be a correction. The difference between a correction and a crash a correction, basically when it turns bearish, it'll stop at a support point or a support line. If it's a crash, it can go as low as it wants. It can go all the way to 2,000, something like that, even lower. But we're not going to see that most likely. But also, like, a crash is not something you can really predict unless you have insider knowledge or something like that. So yeah, so that's the furthest out we can look in terms of support lines. Now if we zoom in a little bit, I can actually just throw this onto the 4 hour so we can look at this next line of support. Now the next line of support we saw right here. You could bring it down a little bit more and you could just say that it's right there. But either one is running about the same slope, and it's roughly within the same range. So it's really like a preference in terms of how conservative of a trader you want to be. So yeah, let's look in a little bit deeper. And now we have about a 3 month range that we're looking at now. So now we're looking more midterm instead of long term. Okay, that's a very important thing depending on what you or how you trade. Okay, if you're trading long term, you're going to want to look at that larger scale. If you're trading midterm, you want to look about this scale. Let's zoom in a little bit just to make it prettier to look at. Now we have, okay, so we have the dip here to 1800. So that was that support. Okay, now this is a very important point because it now creates support for the next term in midterm. So the next 3 months instead of the previous, if you break it up into chunks. So then we have right here, this point right here, at the middle of this month, when we saw Bitcoin correct to right around $3,000. I think it may have went under 3,000 by like $50 for a day, maybe 2,900 absolute minimum. So what does that mean? This means that now there's support at this line, at this slope. So whatever this line's slope is, you could calculate it out, but it's not really that important unless you're trying to calculate the exact point it could go to. But then again, it's slope, so it's rough. So basically what I'm saying is everybody on Twitter, they see, oh, if Bitcoin corrects again, what's it going to go to? I'll tell you what it's going to go to. Most likely, the lowest it would go to is right around this line, which could be, depending on the scale, let's say if it happens within the next couple weeks, the lowest it would probably go to is like 3,300. Okay, if it happened within the next month, the lowest it would go to is like 3,500, 3,450, something like that. Okay, so these are like some of the most important lines of support that you can create is those bottom support lines. Like now top support lines, previous price, yeah, those are important, but you're really, I mean, most people are concerned about, am I going to lose all my money, rather than kind of upward potential. They're more worried about how low can it go, because everybody, when they're investing in Bitcoin, they're thinking about risk. Okay, so if we're talking about, limiting risk, you're going to want to look at the support lines. So from there, now, okay, okay. Sorry, that's the support line from back here that we were looking at. That was from a ways back. That was the horizontal support. But it looks like now our horizontal support has moved up a little bit. So right about here, oh yeah, I do have a line on it under the Fibonacci. So yeah, so now we're gonna look into the short to midterm. So for that, we can go into like the 2 hour, something like that. And we go into the 2 hour and we can see that we are currently in a upward bullish trend. What does that mean? I don't think I've released a public video about channels yet, but basically it's traveling in a channel. If it escapes below it lower, then we're probably going to see some downwards movement for a while. If we see a reversal, we're probably going to see some downward movement for a while. But I say, a downwards movement is not a big deal. It doesn't always mean that it's like in the middle of a correction. Like if we saw it kind of crash down like we did here, from right here, this was an actual correction, okay? Because it just steadily went down hard, at a hard angle. So if we saw Bitcoin do this to this support line, that'd be pretty much the perfect correction, okay? Now it probably won't happen exactly like that. It'll be a little bit rougher, a little bit more staggered. But if we saw that happen, I would not be surprised. I'll tell you that. If we saw it happen over here, I would also not be surprised, okay? It can happen at any time. But what I'm trying to say is the lowest it's going to go, most likely. Now, I mean, there's not too much math you can do into this. Yeah, there's some stats you can put in. You can say, oh, there's like an 80% chance that it'll bounce off this line, and then there's like a 90% chance it'll bounce off this line. I'm not going to get into that. I'm trying to make this as basic as possible so that people that don't really understand technical analysis, or maybe don't even understand why the Bitcoin price is what it is, can start to get an idea of why this happens. So here we have our second support line, our midterm support line right here. So we would most likely bounce off that 3,300 range. When's it going to happen? There's no saying, but it could also just not happen. Now, not happen as in never happen? No. I mean, not happen as in not happen in the short to midterm. Corrections will always happen. They're actually very healthy for growth. If we just saw straight exponential growth or like parabolic movement, that would not be great in terms of overall long-term growth, because that's not really healthy growth. Now that's fine for like altcoins and stuff that's lower volume, because there's more of a market that just hammering in and just getting into the market like at a ridiculous rate. But with Bitcoin, when we see it, I mean, with all the news and everything going around, you can't just have that steady growth. You're going to have people coming in, you're going to have people exiting, but overall, we still have people entering the market at this time, which is a good sign. I mean, it always happens whenever Bitcoin is bullish. You're going to have people entering the market. You're going to have a little bit of FOMO, but I wouldn't say this is FOMO growth. I'd say this is some decently healthy growth. And if we see a correction, I think it's going to be very limited, and it might even be healthy. Now, how often is it going to happen? I say it's not going to happen for a while. Okay. Now, a while, I'd say maybe a month before we see another correction, because everybody's saying that October is looking good. It's looking pretty bullish, and I would agree. Okay. Because the last time we had a correction was in mid-July, right? And then the most recent correction was in mid-September. Mid-September. So, yeah, most likely we're not going to see one in October. Most likely, maybe it'll be at the end of the year. I know at the end of the year, everything looks good because all the news is coming out and everything for alts. But maybe the end of the year, we'll see another correction. Definitely not a bad thing. If you can time the market right, you can actually make money on this by shorting. You can actually make money on it by exiting and then getting back in to accumulate, which would be awesome if you could do that correctly. But other than that, yeah, I would say for the people that are fearful of a Bitcoin crash, do not be fearful. These are corrections. These are not crashes. When Bitcoin bounces off support, that looks very good, okay? Because whenever Bitcoin bounces, it bounces hard. So whenever you're looking at your little Blockfolio app and you see that all your coins are down or your Bitcoin's down, your total portfolio is down, just know, give it a few days, the thing's going to bounce hard and you're going to be back to your normal amount. So don't freak out. That's pretty much what I'm trying to explain, is that support pretty much gives you peace of mind. You know what else gives you peace of mind? Setting stop losses. So set your stop losses tight. In terms of the short term, I don't want to go into it too much because this is just going to change. And if you want steady updates, just join the private Slack. A little quick plug. So yeah, the short term looks fine. Let it keep following this little channel. If it breaks out of it, it'll create a new channel. I'm not going to do TA on it just because I want this video to have some longevity. And be able to explain Bitcoin prices and support for at least a few months before it kind of gets outdated. So that's most of what I have to say. I can't really think of anything else in terms of the simple TA. Definitely check out my other videos if you liked this. Let me get the fib out of here just to make things cleaner. There we go. So yeah, Bitcoin, altcoins, everything's looking pretty decent right now. Don't be scared. Don't ask me in the Slack, when is it going to crash? When is it going to correct? I don't know. Okay. I mean, I could predict and I could look into it a little more, do some tighter TA, look into the news a little more, but I mean, just hold through it and you'll be fine. I told everybody to hold through the correction that happened right here, and guess what? Everybody was fine. We're now back at a price that's almost at the old line of support, which was around somewhere around this area, so between 4,100 and 4,300, and right now we're at almost 4,400 bucks. So nothing to worry about. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say. Is Bitcoin has been growing healthy for a while now. I don't expect it to crash anytime soon. It could correct within the next couple months, but then again, it's just going to bounce off that support line hard. It always does. Okay, nothing to fear. So thanks again for watching. Go to @OracleOfCrypto on Twitter, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video. If you would like to join the private trading Slack, go to the Patreon link. That's where I post all of my charts, like detailed technical analysis like this, but you'll actually see it on a daily basis instead of just all this midterm stuff. And I answer chart requests, I answer all your PMs. So yeah, there's some good support in there. And also you're joining a great community of like 300 plus traders that are just always going at it 24 hours a day, always talking about the latest news, always dropping the latest resources for trading bots, trading calculators. There's some good stuff in there. So yeah, join that. Go to the Patreon link if you'd like to join that. If you'd like to join the free trading Slack, which is different from the private trading Slack. The free trading Slack is just like a general Slack where you guys can shit talk or whatever. Go to my Twitter, send me a DM of just your email address, okay? Don't give me an explanation about your wife and kids and how you need to make money. Just say your email address, and don't say, how do I join the group? Join the group by DMing me your email address, okay? If you don't send me your email address, I'm not going to add you. I'm just going to ignore your message until you send me your email address, okay? I get 100 PMs a day. Just please. Okay, other than that, yeah, the project that me and New Questions are working on, if you're in the private Slack, you know what I'm talking about. Still in the works. Stay patient. Lots of updates to come. I know the end of the month was supposed to be a certain time, but things are still being worked on, and I will give updates about membership and in terms of like migrating membership from paid Slack over to the new program. It will all be explained in detail to you guys. So don't act like you're being left out, or don't feel like you're being left out, because you're absolutely not. I will keep you updated as much as I can as soon as I get updates. So again, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Good luck trading.